Started.
Hey beauty friends, it's Meredith Roddy from Beadalon and Artistic Wire. Thank you so much for joining me for class today. For those of you who are joining me live, welcome or welcome back. Please let me know in the comments if this is your first class with me, or if you have been here for so many classes that you could probably give them yourself. If you are watching later on the replay on the Michael's YouTube channel, remember that there are so many wonderful classes that we have done in the past that you can go back and watch as well. So again, I am Meredith from Beadalon, and this is going to be a very educational class today because we are talking all about tools. Now there are a ton, and that is the official number of tools in Michael's stores. And there are a ton of tools in addition that you can find in other places and perhaps have in your toolbox at home in your jewelry workshop or on your kitchen table or on your dining room table, or perhaps like me in all of those places. But there are 11 specific tools that I'm going to be talking about today. We are going to learn what they look like. We're going to learn what they do. I'm going to demonstrate a couple of different techniques that can be made easier with specific tools. And then we're going to field some questions. So if you have any specific questions from the discussion that I am giving on any of these tools, please drop them in the comments. I'm going to do my very best to keep up and see all of the questions and answer them as we go along. But if I missed anything, Yvette is moderating the class on behalf of Beadalon, and she will give me a little tap, a little reminder, a little interruption to make sure that I talk about everything. Now, there was a handout that was sent along with the class today, and I'm going to be going over all of the bullet points on that handout. And of course, as always happens in these classes, there is so much information to share. So if I skip around a little bit, if I kind of go off on a little bit of a round nose pliers tangent, please give me some grace, because I get very excited in talking about really all of the materials that we have at Beadalon, but in particular tools, because tools are an extension of our best tools, which are our fingers, right? Our hands and our fingers are our most important tools. So really, I guess I'm talking about 12 and 13 different tools today, because our hands really are our best tools. And I view pliers, cutters, nippers, different types of tools as extensions of my hand. And when you start thinking about it like that, you really develop a nice relationship with your tools, and you know which one is going to be the best one for the job. That's what my dad always told me and continues to tell me. You always want to make sure that you use the best tool for the job. And there are some tools that you can use for different jobs, and then some tools that are very specific and need to be used for a specific job. And we're going to talk about all of those as we get into class. So I think we are ready to start. The handout for today will also be posted probably by the end of today or early tomorrow on Beadalon's website. And that's a good reminder if you want to go just to one place and see all of the classes that Beadalon has done for Michael's, and additionally, tons of other projects, tips, tricks, techniques. Beadalon website is a great place for that, as is the Michael's website. There are so many wonderful projects for beading, but also for all different kinds of crafts, right? So here we go. We're ready to start with our very first tool. And the very first tool that I'm going to talk about are the chain nose pliers. Now, these are the sparkle chain nose pliers, and those are the pliers that are in Michael's currently. We also have another type of handle tool in Michael's, and those are the ergo pliers. So whether or not I am talking about the ergo line or the sparkle handle line, the jaws of the pliers are the same. right? It's this flat chain nose pliers. And for class today, I'm going to really try to keep it as basic as possible. Perhaps people who know a little bit more will think that I'm speaking with a little too much simplicity, but this really is a primer, an overview on all tools that Beadalon carries at Michael's. And so I don't think that I can be too basic. So apologies if you're like, oh, I know this all already, but there's probably a little grain of something interesting in there as well. So the thing that, or a couple of things that sparkle chain nose pliers are good for are any kind of wire wrapping, right? Anytime you need to hold something, anytime you need to hold on to wire. So oftentimes when we're doing our wire wrapping, we need to have a grip on something, right? So you're gripping with your flat nose pliers, because we're going to see in a moment what happens when we grip with round nose pliers. Chain nose pliers as well are great for making bends in wire, right? So simple 90-degree bends, different bends. I'm using some 16 gauge wire right now, so it's pretty tough wire, but that's what these are really, really good for. They are also good for holding onto your loops when you're wrapping. And again, a lot of these tools work really well together. And so once I get to the round nose pliers, that is when we will be able to talk about how they work together. But one of the things that I always use my flat nose pliers for is opening and closing jump rings. Now to do that, I use 2 flat nose pliers. And the way that you do that is you hold one in one hand and you hold one in the other. And rather than pulling out, you don't want to pull this out of plane, you twist gently, one toward you and one away from you. And then to close it, you do the opposite. Okay, so let me show that one more time, nice and steady and nice and close. We're going to hold one on one side and on the other. Then you would loop in or link in whatever you needed to attach, and then close that back up. And usually I give it a little wiggle just to make sure that it is nice and tight. A flat nose plier is a little bit of a different animal. And let me show what a flat nose plier looks like. I should have one right over here. Let's see. Flat nose plier. This is what a flat nose plier looks like. So it's slightly different, right? It has a flat nose as opposed to that pointed chain nose. Now they do a similar function. However, with the chain nose, see, because they are tapered so much, you can really get into the nooks and crannies. Additionally, there are a lot of different sizes of this jaw. So these 2 jaws are pretty similar in size, right? But if you look at different tools, maybe some different tools that you have in your toolbox, you can see, here's one that I have that's a different brand, but that's much smaller, right? Still a chain nose pliers, but it has a much, much smaller jaw. There are also what people sometimes call needle nose pliers, which are have a much longer jaw. And again, it's just all about kind of what you're comfortable with and what kind of a little space that you need to get into. That's one of the takeaways that I really hope everybody gets from class today, is that tools can also be a very, I had mentioned earlier, they're an extension of your hand. So you want to make sure that they are comfortable in your hand. And what's comfortable for one person might not be comfortable for everybody. That's why there are a lot of different handles, right? That's why we have these ergo handles here, why we have the sparkle handles here. And you'll see as we go along, a lot of different handles as well. Sometimes it's just the way that the tool is made, but oftentimes you can get the same tool with very different handles. So let's move on and talk about bent chain nose pliers. So this is that same line, it's a sparkle handle, but this flat nose is bent. Okay, so that's kind of curious. Why in the world would you want to work with a bent chain nose plier? Well, one of the things that the bent chain nose pliers do is allow you better access and visibility. Because that tip is bent out of the way, it allows you to see what's going on here better than if you are just using a flat nose plier. And to be fair, I oftentimes will use a flat, a bent, and a flat, a bent, and a chain nose pliers. Sometimes I'll use them interchangeably, right? If I just need to open and close a jump ring, all three of these will do that job, no problem. Sometimes it's a matter of personal preference. You like using one better than the other. And sometimes, especially when you are doing specific wire work, you will have a specific pliers that you like using better for that. Okay, so as we are transitioning to talking about round nose pliers, I'm actually going to use my round nose pliers to show something that I use my bent chain nose pliers for. So I mentioned in the beginning, again, that many of these pliers work together. So oftentimes people will say, oh, well, why do I need 11 different pliers? Well, hopefully by the end of today, you'll realize why you need at least maybe 4 or 5 of these pliers. And then some can go on your wish list for, oh, that would be really nice to have, because I do a lot of wire loops. And so those particular pliers will be better for me. But I use those round nose pliers to tie that, to make that little loop there on the end. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold that loop with my bent chain nose pliers, and I'm going to bend this around to make a spiral. So these little spirals are really good for making head pins or little decorative dangle-doos or doodads. But you can see, because these jaws are pointed off, I can see a lot more of my wire work, and I can see a lot more of what I'm doing. So again, it really, a lot of times this just depends on what your needs are, right? Maybe you prefer doing your loops, your spirals with chain nose pliers. That's great. You know, more power to you. Maybe you prefer doing them with flat nose pliers. Again, a lot of this comes down to personal preference. And for those of you who have been here with me for a long time, you know that I will always talk about lots of different ways of doing something, because the thing that one person likes might not be the same thing that somebody else likes, right? Okay, so let's move on and talk about round nose pliers. So round nose pliers differ from chain nose pliers or flat nose pliers because their jaws are round, of course, right? Anytime you want to make something round, you use round nose pliers. Sometimes it is helpful to mark your round nose pliers with something called why am I totally blanking on what these are called? On a fashion grip, which you can find on the Michaels website, because whenever I teach classes, I always see people reaching for the round nose pliers when they mean to reach for the flat nose pliers, or vice versa. You'll also see on my round nose pliers, I have them marked with a permanent marker. This one's faded a little bit. You can still see the line. And that's to make sure that your loops are consistent every time, because this is tapered, right? You can make really, really little loops or really, really big loops. And so I like my loops to be consistent when I'm making wrap loops or simple loops. And so doing that with a round nose plier, or I'm sorry, marking your round nose plier is a great way to go. So when I'm talking about simple loops and wrap loops, let's talk about what I'm talking about. So I'm using 20 gauge wire for the demonstration today. And to make a simple loop, again, our tools are working together in conjunction. I'm using the chain nose pliers to make a bend. And then I'm coming in here with my round nose pliers to make a loop. So let's loop this back. And let's see if I can actually make a decent wrapped loop while I'm only halfway looking at what I'm doing. That's not great. Let's do a little fixie fix. And let's see. That's not terrible. It's not the worst one I've ever made. It's not great. So you can see, because I wanted to make a round shape, I used my round nose pliers. And the permanent marker, the Sharpie that I'm using, it will stay for a good long time. Eventually it'll rub away just because it's metal, and that's what happens. And then I'll just go ahead and make another one. If I want to remove this mark, I can use a little bit of like nail polish remover, rubbing alcohol, or probably just rub it off with my thumb with a little bit of elbow grease. What else did I want to say about making that mark? Let's try a wrap loop now, because then you can see, we can see what I was talking about earlier with the holding of the wire. So I'm going to bend this down at kind of a 45-degree angle and hold it now with my round nose pliers. And this is always the hardest part of teaching a wrap loop, is figuring out the right angle to show it at so that you can see and I can see also. So I have done a lot of tutorials on making wrap loops, so I'm not really going to go through it so much today. But I do want to show how using our two tools together, our round nose pliers and our chain nose pliers, allows us to make a nice wrapped loop. And again, I'm demonstrating today with 20 gauge artistic wire, but the same would hold true for all gauges. And depending on how big you want your loops to be, that's how big you would make that mark. Mine is at about, I don't know, my round nose pliers. That's the other thing, is every time I put my tools down, I lose them. Mine is at 1/4 of an inch. But again, if your jaws are a little bit different, or you like your loops to be a little bit of a different size, you'll adjust that accordingly. And sometimes what I'll do is I'll make a loop in the size that I want, and then I'll go ahead and put it back on the pliers, and then I'll make my mark. So I know that I'll know that it's the size that I want it to be. And then the last thing for a wrap loop that these pliers are great for is coming back in here and just tucking that edge in so that there aren't any sharp edges. Okay. Let's see. So let's talk more about round nose pliers. All right, so we made a wrap loop and a simple loop. Oh, we can also use our round nose pliers to make double loops and coils. So you guys have, if you've watched many of my classes, you've probably seen me make the knotted head pin. So to start the knotted head pin, you make a coil on the end of the wire. So we made a spiral before with our chain nose, or our bent chain nose pliers. And now we can make a coil. And this coil can be as long or as short as I want it to be. Maybe I'm doing a design that has a lot of coils in it. So I can just keep on coiling that and then cut the coils the length that I want them to be. Okay, so great. There are so many other things. Round nose pliers are one of the workhorses. Another thing that they do is they make the ends of memory wire. So we've also done a lot of classes here on the Michaels Community Classroom about memory wire. And this is the wrong memory wire. Bear with me for 1 second, friends. Just need to grab a different package of memory wire. Thought I had the right one, but it wasn't not the right one. Sometimes happens. So I have a little bit of memory wire here, and I am going to, spoiler alert, use a different tool. I'm going to show that in a minute. It was very hard to organize this class because, again, all of these tools work together. So to do them in any specific order is actually, it was really hard. So that's why I'm a little bit jumping all around, but it'll all come clear in the end. So again, depending on how big of a loop I want in the end of my memory wire, I can either make a single loop, or I can keep going and even make a double loop. So to end off memory wire, that is the perfect use for these guys. And if you don't know what I'm talking about with memory wire, please go back into the archives and look at some of the classes that we've done on memory wire, because this is a great material to work with. Okay, so lastly, I mentioned that we want to make sure that we don't use our round nose pliers to hold on to things. We use our flat nose pliers to hold on to things. And I'm going to show you why. So when you hold on to things, hopefully that this will be a good demonstration. When you hold on to things with the round nose pliers, you see those little marks that are happening in the 16 gauge wire? This actually might be 14 gauge wire. So if I'm holding on to the wire using my round nose pliers, it's going to make little marks in here. Now, sometimes maybe I want those little marks. I want to texturize my wire just a little bit. And this is pretty tough wire, but you can see I've put all those little dots and all those little markings in there. Maybe from a stylistic standpoint, maybe that's something that you want to go for. Well, round nose pliers will do that. So don't use them if you don't want any marks made in your wire, especially your thick wire, but use them if you do want those marks in. Okay, so next tool in my stack of tools over here. I should have taken a before picture. So that's this guy. So, oh my goodness, what in the world is this crazy alien looking tool? This is the MultiPliers, and this is available in Michaels. There is both a chain nose and a round nose pliers, all in this one Franken tool. Yes, this is definitely a Franken tool. So both chain nose and round nose in one tool. Oh my goodness. So first of all, why? Right? That's the first question everybody asks. Besides that it's really cool. Excuse me. If you are doing a lot of wire wrapping where you are making links, right? So if you are making links in your wire, what you would do the old-fashioned way, and I'm just going to do that really quickly so that everybody can see the difference, is I'm going to have my 3 tools here, right? My round nose pliers, my chain nose pliers, and my cutters. So I pick one up, I put it down. Here, I pick this up, I put it down. I have my other tool here. I'm holding them both together. I put this down, and then I snip this off, right? So I'm pretty good at it. I can do it pretty quickly, but what you can do when you have the MultiPliers is that whole system, but just using one tool. So let me see if I can do this the right way. So the interesting thing also is that there are a lot of different ways to call tools. And depending on where you are in your kind of your tool journey, it might depend on what you call a certain tool. So I refer to the tools as what we call them in the Beadalon catalog, but there are a lot of colloquial names for tools as well. And there are also a lot of tools that you'll find in the hardware store that are not jewelry making tools that, that you'll know the names of those as well. Now, Wyatt White is the inventor of this tool, and he makes it look so much easier than I do. I'm gonna try it one more time, because it really is, especially when you are doing a lot of the same repetitive wire work over and over again. It's a really good tool, but you kind of have to be able to see what you're doing a little bit better than I can right now. But let me see if I can't make this a little bit easier. To see what I'm doing. And so you never have to put your tool down and pick it back up the way that I was doing it with these two tools over and over again. Okay, so a couple of the different things here. So one of the things that I was really struggling with is, and I can show it really well, because the round nose part is up, you can see the loop as you're making it, which makes it a lot easier to do if you are struggling with your loops. So again, lots of different tools. Sometimes they're accomplishing the same goal, right? Some people think that this is the greatest tool invention ever because they don't want to put down, pick up, put down, pick up. Other people say, no, I'm a purist. I want to use my chain nose and my round nose pliers. There is no right or wrong answer, right? Whatever works best for you. And that, again, is why there are so many different tools and so many different tool options. So let's take a moment and we're going to move on to a whole separate category of tools. And these are the crimping tools. And in Michaels, we have both the micro crimping pliers, the standard crimping pliers, and there are mighty crimping pliers in Michaels as well they just don't happen to be the Beadalon brand, but they work exactly the same way. So very quickly, on crimping pliers, and for a full 60-minute dissertation on different kinds of crimping pliers and why you want to use different ones for different jobs, please refer back to the 5 things you should never do when making beaded jewelry video on the Michaels YouTube channel, because I go over everything you could ever possibly want to know and some things that you didn't think you ever needed to know about crimping and why we have these different sizes. So very simply, 3 different sizes of crimping pliers, because there are different sizes of crimp tubes, because there are different sizes of different sizes of beading wire. So here I just grabbed one of the only tools that does not say the information that I wanted to. It is clearly an old school. Let's take this one. Okay, so what are all of these words that I'm using? So here we have some beading wire. This happens to be 49 strand wire. It is 0.018 inches in diameter. Okay. And so when I crimp this, I know that I need to use a number 1 crimp bead or a number 2 crimp tube. If you do not use the correct size crimp beater tube with the correct size wire, with the correct size crimp tube, your jewelry is going to fall apart, most likely. The whole reason why you calibrate beading wire, crimp tube size, and crimp tool is so that your jewelry is made to last. So for any of you who might not know how this works, we're just going to show with the standard crimping tool. And again, the technique is the same, no matter whether you are using, just as a quick aside, chain nose pliers are also really good for getting the lids off of things. When again, it's an extension of your best tool, your hands, right? So whenever we are going to make anything crimped, right, we're string our crimp on, come in here, through and around. I'm just using a little tag for demonstrations purposes. You want to make sure that your wire is not crossed. We, of course, because we are Beadalon and we make the wire, we are very concerned about good wire health. And we want to make sure that our wire is as happy as it could possibly be. And the way that you get happy wire is by crimping properly. So the crimp tool has two openings, right? There's a smooth one in the front and one with a little divot, a little dimple in the back. So I'm going to come in here, first things first, in that front part of the crimping pliers, and I'm just going to gently press it down. Then I'm going to come to the back part of my crimping pliers and gently press it down. And now I'm going to come again to the front, but I'm rotating my tool 45 degrees, 90 degrees. And I am going to squeeze, but also move my tool around, okay? And for everybody who watches my Facebook Lives for Beadalon and who comes to classes at Michael's every week, what am I going to say next? Everyone should know I'm going to say what not to do is please do not come and smash that crimp in the front of your pliers or even with a chain nose pliers. That crimp is happy now. The crimp isn't going anywhere. The crimp is hugging the wire in the happiest way possible. That crimp, if it smashes, if you smash it closed with that front of your pliers, all that's going to happen is you are going to compromise the metal and you are going to break down the wires. Okay, so please just believe me, trust me. If you do your crimping well, if you match your crimp tube or bead to your wire with your tool, you will always get a good crimp. It takes some practice, right, to get really, really good crimping. But just trust me on this one. It's worth it to practice your crimping. Okay, so that is our micro crimper and our standard crimper. So let's move on to some fun extras. Okay, so I kind of went over maybe not necessarily the basics, because I think all 11 of these tools are very, very important to have in your toolbox. But now we can kind of move to things that might be a little extra. And that's this guy. So this is the standard wire looping pliers. It has a step of 1, 2, 3, and then a concave jaw on the other side. It's a little hard to see with the reflection, but I think that we can see. Okay. And I generally, I'm sorry, let me just back up 1 second. I generally demonstrate with crimp tubes because that's almost all of what I have in my kind of my go-to, but I do have some crimp beads over here, and I really am remiss in demonstrating with crimp beads more often. I just don't happen to have a whole lot, but let me see. I've got a little one right here. So that's so little, it jumped away. So this is one that would be used with much thinner wire and the micro crimper. So before I get to the crazy looper, let me just demonstrate that really quickly. And for that, what I'm going to need is to find some 0.012 wire, which does exist in Michael's. And the question is, does it exist in my bag of wire right here? Bear with me for 1 second, friends, and I will find an 0.012 diameter for us to work with. Will I find an 0.012 diameter? Well, I'm not finding it quickly, so we're just going to go with 0.015 because sometimes I will admit sometimes I do use the smaller crimp beads with 0.015 wire. Okay. So where did my little tag go? Here it is. I'm going to snip him apart so we can show A, how the crimp bead is the same, and B, how the micro crimper works. And of course, I'm going to immediately regret leaving my glasses upstairs. And crimp beads and crimp tubes is in my opinion, a totally personal preference. I happen to think for me, crimp tubes are just a little bit easier to maneuver. But every time I use a crimp bead, I think to myself, well, that wasn't hard at all. Why don't I use crimp beads? Some people like the way certain ones look a little bit better. Some people like the way that oops, and I totally mangled that. All right, well, that's a really good example of what not to do, because I was like, oh, you know what? I'm just going to use the 0.015 wire, and it didn't work with that crimp bead. So lesson learned, Meredith, make sure that you have 0.012 wire at the ready. Let me go through with a couple more of these tools, and then I'll dig through and rummage a little more, because I know I have 0.012 here someplace. So let's move on to talking about this guy. So this is a fun tool, and every time I use it, I'm like, oh, that's great. Why don't I use it more? So that might be a tool that you reach for all the time. It just doesn't happen to be a tool that I reach for that much, but it's actually very, very functional for 2 reasons. The first reason, well, actually for 3 reasons. You can make the same size of wrapped loops each time. So before, when I was, sorry about that, guys, when I was marking my pliers, if you happen to have this tool, you're going to have the same size loop every time, either a small, medium, or a large, right? It's just going to be a little bit of a different technique to make that loop. Okay. And of course, I'm doing a little bit of a fancy, kind of a fun, I forgot to move this back. I could move on, but it would bother me. So when you're making wrap loops, just as a fun little aside, you don't have to do your wraps tight, right? You can do them all different ways. And maybe this tool is a better way to do it, right? Something that you might not have even thought about. Another great use for this tool is if you want to make, excuse me, a coil, right? So we did the coil on the end of the round nose pliers. But once again, you have to be careful that you are always holding it on the same place. But here, because it is stepped, this will give you a consistently sized coil. And then of course, what you can do is you can come in here and make your coil into jump rings. So if you need a specific size of jump rings, or you just need any old jump ring, you can make a coil and then have some jump rings to use. Okay. You can also use this to turn the ends of memory wire. So sometimes, especially when you get the heavy duty memory wire, it can be a little challenging to, especially if your wrists are a little weaker, and mine are starting to become a little bit weaker. You can use this to turn the ends of the memory wire as well. Okay. So let's see, did I cover everything for the standard wire looping pliers? I think I did. So again, just one of those tools you might have seen in Michael's and said, what in the heck do I use that for? Those are a couple of things that you can use. Also great for doing different kinds of wire work as well. Okay, so moving right along. Oh, yes. I'm glad my memory wire is at the ready, because it is time to talk about the memory wire shears. Whenever I talk about memory wire shears, I feel like I get a mom voice because of how serious I am about not using anything but memory wire shears to cut memory wire. Memory wire shears are, there are bypass cutters, which means, let's see if I can get a nice shot here. Their jaws go right past each other. So you get a really nice double flush cut, like butter, on both sides of that memory wire. Because the memory wire is tempered steel, it's very, very hard, and it will destroy your nippers, which we're going to talk about next. And it will destroy any cutters that you have. You do not want to use your cutters with memory wire. Always, 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 always use memory wire shears. And I just love how it sounds. You know that it is a good cutter because it just makes that great snipping sound. Now, memory wire cutters are not only for memory wire. That big, thick 14 gauge wire that I was working with before, these are great for cutting this. So let me just nip off that little part that I ruined before. So easy to cut that. And it can be a little bit of a struggle if you're using your nippers. It wasn't that hard. But especially if you are you struggle with either arthritis or with wrist strength, these guys are really, really good for cutting thick wire. So memory wire shears, not just for memory wire, but nippers are definitely not for memory wire, which brings us to our nippers, right? So these are great for cutting copper wire. So artistic wire, German style wire, great for sterling silver, for copper, for really for any soft wire, right? Up to probably, I think we recommend up to either 16 or 18 gauge for these guys. There are limitations, of course, to what you can cut with these, but for most purposes, these are a great all-around nipper. We at Beadalon, through Michael's and separately, this is our #1 selling cutter. It's JT Nip 1 is how we refer to it, and it's a great cutter. It also works really well for cutting beading wire. One of the things that you want to make sure that you do when you're cutting beading wire is try to get it as far back in the jaws as you can. Let me show that again, because that is where it's going to be sharpest, especially if you have used it to cut. So if you put it up here, it's not going to cut as well in the front of the jaws. You want to cut it in the back, and it's going to be a nice cut. Okay, so not in the front, but in the back. You'll get a really good cut every time. And these are great. I mean, they're just nippers, right? You see me grabbing for nippers all the time. You use them to cut everything. So next, and a tool that I use surprisingly often. I don't talk about it very much, but it happens to be something that I use a lot. This is the split ring pliers. So again, you might have seen this on the wall at Michael's and wondered, well, okay, interesting. Why do I need a split ring pliers? So 2 reasons. First of all, where do my split rings go? Here they are. So oftentimes I like to attach things with a split ring. And this is this is the tool that you need to open the split ring to be able to thread something through. So if you don't have good nails for such a job, which I do not, where did my tag go? I keep losing my tag. Grab a little. No, that's not gonna work. Let's grab this guy. Sometimes you want a more secure end to your design than a jump ring. And for that, a split ring is perfect. And what is a split ring? It's really just a very little key ring, right? It's a piece of metal that's coiled around and around on itself. Let's get a really nice close up so you guys can see what I'm talking about. And let's see if I can make this work with my non-glasses wearing decision for class today. That's on there. So once again, our tools work in conjunction with each other, right? So I'm going to hold this with my chain nose pliers. Sorry, either I can see or you can see, and get this on here. This probably wasn't the best thing to demonstrate with, but you get the general idea, right? So now I have a split ring on. So this isn't going to be able to go anywhere now that it's on. If this was a jump ring, I might be able to pull this off, right? But because I'm using a split ring, it will not do that. Just a fun little bonus tip. If I have them down here, of course I've moved them. So quick little bonus tip. These are also great for attaching charms. So oftentimes if I'm attaching a charm to a zipper pull or attaching a charm to, what else would I attach a charm to besides a zipper? Either for on a sweater or on a little bag or anywhere decorative that I want to attach something that's going to be pulled on a lot, I will use a split ring to do that rather than a jump ring. Also, just between you and me, I use this tool if I need to actually get a key on a key ring, because it is that's what it does. A key ring is a giant split ring, and I don't burn my nails. So between you and me, great tool for getting keys on and off of key rings as well. So a little aside there. Okay, so let's see. Oh, and lastly, oh my goodness, we have come to the end of our tool course, is the nylon jaw flat nose pliers. There are also, I believe, I just need to check my master list really quickly. I am not seeing, so no, we're good. Okay, so nylon jaw flat nose pliers. And for those of you who watch me do beadwork a lot, you know that this is one of my go-to tools. So all of the 11 tools today really that I have shown are important to have in your toolbox. They all have their own special uses, and they make our jobs as beaders and designers easier. So nylon jaw pliers I use almost every time I do any wire work, because what I do before I do anything is I straighten my wire. So you saw how bent that was? I use this to straighten it before I do any work. The other thing that I use these for, head pins. Sometimes if I'm not storing my head pins right, this one is a little bent, but say that it came out of the package really bent. Well, what you can do is hold on to it with your chain nose pliers and use the nylon jaw pliers to straighten out that bend. Sometimes it takes a little bit more coaxing, but it happens. Okay. So before I do almost any wire work, I will run my nylon jaw pliers off of over the wire. Michaels also carries these with round noses. And the benefit from the nylon, both in the flat and in the round nose, is that it will not mar your wire. Sometimes, especially if you have a really heavy hand, if you are doing a lot of wire work, it's possible to get some nicks in the wire, even with the flat nose pliers. If that is something that happens for you, then the nylon jaws are a really good alternative. Sometimes, and I'm guilty of this as well, where are my round nose pliers? Sometimes, here they are. Also, and like I said, I do this sometimes, especially if I'm working with really soft wire. Sometimes if I'm holding this loop really firmly, let me see if I can make it happen, really firmly in my hand here as I'm making a wrap loop, I can, it's not terrible, but you see how there's a little divot there? I don't know. There, you can kind of see how I made a little divot in that wire because I was holding on to it really tight. There we go. Now we can see it really, really well. If you use the nylon jaw round nose pliers, there is a much lesser chance for you to make that little mark. So once again, all of the tools that we talked about today have their special jobs, and all of them are designed to make beading and wire work easier and more enjoyable. If a specific tool is not doing that for you, then change it out. Try a different tool. Try a different style. Maybe the ergo tools are more comfortable for you. Make sure that you're using the right crimp tool for the job. Make sure you are using the right cutter for the job. So no matter what you're doing for your beading work, there was always the right tool to go to make that job easier and more professional looking. But bringing everything back to the very beginning, our most important tools are our hands. And the last thing that I want to say about the tools and about your hands is make sure you take care of these most important tools that you have, because if these tools don't work, then these tools aren't going to work. So when you are working, when you're doing wire work, when you're doing bead work, make sure you take breaks. Make sure you stretch your fingers out. And it's a little silly when I do my spider fingers like that, but you want to do some good stretches, some stretches to make sure that you aren't hurting your best tools with repetitive motions over and over again. So, oh my goodness, that was a lot of information that I threw at you, and I appreciate each and every one of you hanging out, sticking with me, asking good questions. Hopefully I was able to share some extra tips and tricks, maybe some information that you didn't know already. If you are interested in finding out even more about what these tools can do and projects that you can do with them, definitely head on over to the Michaels website and also to the Michaels YouTube channel and look at all of the past community classroom projects. Of course, if you have made anything with these tools or with any of our products, please hashtag Beadalon, because we always love seeing what you make. In addition, make sure that you do a hashtag of Michaels, or make it with Michaels, and also Michaels Classroom, because Michaels loves seeing what you make as well. If you want to hang out with me a little bit more, definitely come on over to to my Instagram page, which is Meredith Joy Designs. And I think that is it for me. Catch us, Beadalon, on the Michaels Community Classroom on Wednesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, and also some Saturdays at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, and soon to be moving to 1 p.m. Eastern Time. So definitely check that, and you can sign up for all of the classes on the Michaels website. So post on your socials, tag and follow, and until next time, happy beading.